Just after I found out I was expecting, my husband fell for Clara Marks, the daughter of a traitor sentenced to the brothel. He poured his whole heart into her, doing everything he could to buy her freedom. He even planned to get her a new name and clear her record, wanting to make her his honored concubine. Treason was a grave crime. Noble families stayed far away from it. But he walked right into it without hesitation. I couldn't bear the thought of our family getting dragged down, so I told his parents everything. The Bensons crushed the Marks family without mercy. Clara set herself on fire right outside the mansion. Before she died, she screamed through her tears, "Ethan ruined me. Lydia destroyed me." Afterward, Ethan Benson acted like nothing happened, throwing himself into his career. I was foolish enough to feel relieved, thinking he had really changed. I didn't see it coming. Years later, my family was framed for treason, 3 generations wiped out, and he burned me alive in my own room. For every bit of pain Clara endured, he hissed, "I'll make you suffer 1,000 times over. You'll never get peace, not even in death." The flames roared, casting his twisted face in sharp relief. When I opened my eyes again, it was the day I had just learned I was pregnant. "My dear, Brother Zhang and Brother Li are hosting a poetry gathering today. I won't be dining at home. Could you cover for me with my parents?" His voice slowly became clear in my ears. I shivered all over and jerked my head up. The searing pain of the fire vanished like a retreating tide. Seeing the familiar, handsome face before me, I instinctively stepped back. Ethan Benson's expression darkened at my reaction. "Lydia, if you don't want to, just say so." "No need to look like you've seen a ghost. What, you think I'm some demon?" I stood frozen for a moment, my mind struggling to catch up. I had been reborn. Seeing me still dazed, Ethan gently tugged my hand. "Lydia, are you feeling unwell? You need to be extra careful now that you're with child." His worried look seemed genuine. And yet, years later, he'd accuse my family of treason, burn me alive, all for Clara Marks. Ethan Benson was my newlywed husband, tall, graceful, a true gentleman. His name spoke for itself, gentle, kind, the very picture of elegance. He was the only son of Mr. Benson. The Emperor relied heavily on the Bensons. There was only Mrs. Benson in the household, no concubines, and they had an impeccable reputation. Every prominent family in the capital dreamed of forging ties with them. All the young ladies longed to marry Ethan Benson, dreamed of a lifetime of love and loyalty. When the Bensons sought a bride, every eligible maiden tried desperately to catch Mrs. Benson's favor. But in the end, they chose me, Lydia Roe, from a noble and respected family. Overnight, I became the envy of every girl in the capital. Though Ethan attracted plenty of admirers, he always kept a respectful distance. After we married, even if we weren't overly affectionate, he was consistently attentive and considerate. With the Benson household being so simple, none of that messy infighting or jealousy ever touched me. I thought I had truly married into a perfect family, that Ethan and I were destined for a blissful life together. Until Clara Marks appeared. Clara Marks was the eldest daughter of General Han Guang of Ningguan. She was famous once. Delicate features, radiant smiles, eyes full of life. She was skilled in all the classical arts. And coming from a military family, she had even studied military strategies since childhood. After her father's disgrace, she was sent to the brothel. 3 years of training refined her into something softer, like a flower trembling on water, like a willow swaying in the breeze. Ethan Benson visited the brothel just once, and that was all it took. He fell head over heels for her. From then on, he thought of no one but her, morning and night. In my previous life, I gave in to his pleas, covered for him in front of my in-laws, just so he could hang out with his buddies at the poetry club in the music bureau. From that moment on, every corner of my life was painted with the name Clara Marks, a single blooming flower in the courtyard. He said, She loves that lone, pure vibe. It's just like her, staying beautiful even in the filth. He'd pick up a copy of The Art of War. He said, "She knows more about the art of war than I do. If life hadn't crushed her, she'd beat any man." When he looked at me, it felt like he was seeing someone else through me. He said, "Lydia, you have a child to keep you company. She's got no one but herself." Hearing that, bitterness flooded in, but I could only smile gracefully, hiding the hurt, playing the perfect wife. After that, Ethan Benson barely spared me a glance. Every excuse he had, every spare moment, all given to Clara Marks. Whenever he came back, there was a faint smell of camellia on him, her favorite scent. There'd be lipstick smudges near his ear, a bit he hadn't wiped clean. He started slacking off on his studies, skipping Imperial Academy exams just to be by her side. Then, he just straight up stopped coming home at night. And every time he did return, he'd mumble about how having multiple wives was what real men did. One day, he rushed back, looking all flustered, demanded all my private savings, then bolted to ransom and hide her, even trying to change her record. That's when I realized I couldn't let this spiral any further. Clara's family had backed the wrong side during the throne fight and had seriously offended the new emperor. After His Majesty took the throne, he decided to settle old scores. The royal guard raided Clara's home and found proof of treason, secret letters sent to foreign enemies. By law, it was a crime punishable by wiping out 3 generations. Because the emperor had just ascended and didn't want too much bloodshed, and because the Marks family had helped found the dynasty, he showed mercy. Males over 10 beheaded immediately. Males under 10 exiled to Ninguta. All female family members thrown into the Music Bureau could not be ransomed without imperial pardon. When the scandal broke, all the nobles and officials ran from the Marks family like it was the plague. But Ethan, he practically threw himself into their mess, dreaming of a love story with the traitor's daughter. If this blew up, he'd drag the entire Benson family down with him. I couldn't let that happen, not with our child on the way. So I laid everything bare before Mr. and Mrs. Benson. They were furious. Without hesitating, they cut off Ethan's plan to change Clara's identity, and made sure the Marks boys, exiled to Ninguta, were conveniently killed by mountain bandits, all to show loyalty to the emperor. Word of the Marks family's doom spread fast. Clara lit herself on fire in front of the Benson estate. Between sobs and screams, she accused, "Ethan betrayed me! Lydia ruined me!" And then she was gone. I thought Ethan would be devastated, maybe even take his own life. But no, he stayed eerily calm. Just changed. No more poetry, no more love games. He threw himself into politics with a cold-blooded focus. In just a few years, he clawed his way up to Chief Inspector of the Royal Guard, holding real power, becoming one of the Emperor's closest men. The next year, my family got framed for treason. Before I could even react, the verdict came, execution for the whole Roe family. Ethan dragged me to the marketplace, forced me to watch Gabriel Roe and the rest of them lose their heads, their blood soaking the dirt. That night, he locked me in my room and set it on fire. He glared at me, voice full of hatred. "You killed Clara. She never wanted to take anything from you. She just wanted to live with dignity. But you couldn't even leave her that. You made her suffer. Now it's your turn to burn 1,000 times worse." Clara's skin was soft as silk. Even a scratch would make her cry in pain. And in the end, she had to burn herself alive. Imagine how much that hurt. How much she hated you. You should die. Every time I touched you after she was gone, pretending to care, just to keep you in line, I wanted to puke. You high and mighty filthy woman. Now it's your turn to rot in hell. to make up for what you did to my Clara. After you die, I'll tell our son his mother was nothing but a filthy woman who ran off with someone else. He'll never know you, never remember you." Ha 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 ha! The fire roared behind him, throwing his twisted face into sharp, terrifying relief. I never imagined he could hate me this much, all because of Clara Marks. Hate that ran so deep he could bide his time for 10 whole years, weaving every piece of this cruel revenge. His mad laughter echoed inside my burning ears as the flames tore through me, pain wrenching every nerve. I wasn't ready to die. If I hadn't acted when I did, Ethan Benson would have dragged our whole family into ruin with his recklessness. The Benson family would have been doomed. No, I couldn't accept this. Maybe heaven heard my desperate screams, because somehow it gave me another chance. This time, I won't make the same mistake. Ethan looked at me, worry creasing his brow. "Are you sure you're all right? Should I call for the doctor?" I shook my head slowly, meeting the hope flickering in his eyes. Then I said, quiet but firm, "You should go to the poetry club. If you want to build a successful career, socializing's a must." Ethan frowned, a little thrown off. "Lydia, you're not pretending to be fine just to sulk alone later, right? I know I should stay, but tonight's important. All my classmates from the Imperial Academy will be there. If I skip, it'll look bad." He really thought I was mad at him. "You might think the pleasure houses aren't respectable," he continued earnestly, "but it's not like that. Remember Clara Marks, that famous talent back in the day? She's the top performer there now, but trust me, it's all arts, no shame. You have to believe me. I would never betray you." "You know," he smiled as if sharing something precious, "Clara's mind is incredible. Last time she wrote a plum blossom poem that even our academy supervisor couldn't stop praising. She once said, 'Just because you study at the Imperial Academy, you think that's real learning? Can't you learn something from the chaos of life too?' I really agree with her. Back then, Ethan used this self-righteousness to justify getting close to Clara. Young and naive as he was, maybe he did get a bit dazzled by a beautiful, talented girl. But after 3 years trapped in that place, after enduring all that disgrace and hardship, could Clara really still have such a pure heart? No way. What really pulled Ethan in wasn't Clara herself, it was the Benson name. A family firmly trusted by the Emperor, holding real power. If Clara could grab onto the Bensons, she might save her exiled brothers, maybe even claw her way out of the hell she lived in. At the very least, she could escape with her own life. But the closer you are to the Emperor's favor, the sharper the blade that hovers above your head. The Benson family knew this. Mr. Benson played it safe, refusing to form cliques, keeping his head down. But unfortunately, the good Marquis had a foolish son, one who fell for the daughter of a traitor and even dreamed of running off with her. Think about it. What would the Emperor make of that? Best case, displeasure. Worst case, the Benson family would be buried by a glance. Did Clara care about Ethan? Maybe a little, but not enough to risk anything serious. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dragged the man she loved into the gutter with her. Thanks to Clara's skilled manipulation, Ethan was practically living at the pleasure house. Late for classes, skipping them altogether, out all night. He even missed the monthly exams for her sake. If I hadn't faked illness, pregnancy made a perfect excuse, and begged my father to pull some strings with the academy, Ethan would have been thrown out long ago. I still remember him looking into my eyes and murmuring, "Clara's suffering breaks my heart, Lydia. She's so gifted, so beautiful, yet she's stuck in such a place. She's meant for greater things, not to be lost among common women." She wept about her unfair fate, and I just couldn't stand it. She told me I'm her light, that she can't survive without me. But Don't worry, Lydia, he vowed. Clara promised. She doesn't want anything else. She just wants to be with me. The best hunters always show up looking like the easiest prey. Ethan Benson was already hooked by Clara Marks. Talent as the rod, frailty as the line, love as the bait, caught clean and tight. Worry? Why would I worry? Honestly, I just hoped she could reel him in even tighter. How else would I settle the score of him burning my whole family alive in our last life? I quickly said, "Why would I worry? I'm pregnant now. I'm not fit to serve you anyway. And since Miss Clara makes you happy, she's actually doing me a favor. I should be thanking her." Then I slipped the gold ring from my finger and handed it to Ethan. He froze for a beat, staring at the ring like it stung him, a flash of displeasure flickering across his eyes. I. Pathetic, so pretentious. I was handing him permission to fool around, and he still acted like he had a right to be upset. Good thing was, I was pregnant now, didn't have to keep up the happy couple act with him anymore. Not wanting to listen to him babble another word, I smiled and said, "Husband, you should go. Can't keep Miss Clara waiting." He stood there, looked at me, then at the ring, but love won out quickly. He tucked the ring away and rushed off. "Take care of yourself," he said over his shoulder. "I'll be back early tonight." The annual Buddha's birthday festival was here, and while I still felt strong enough, I planned a trek to Yuntai Temple to pray for our child. After the prayers, there was still plenty of time left, so I let my head maid help me around the temple grounds for some fresh air. And that's when I ran into Ethan and Clara, walking arm in arm. As soon as Clara spotted me, she clutched Ethan's arm tighter and shot me a dark, guarded look, like I was some thief about to steal her prize. Ethan stiffened for a second, visibly awkward. Quickly, he pried Clara's hand off and walked toward me a few steps faster. "Lydia, why didn't you tell me you were going up the mountain? You're pregnant. I should be here with you," he said. "Be with me? As if you'd leave your sweetheart behind?" No point playing nice with him anymore. I kept my smile polite and said, "I didn't want to disturb your studies. I've got my mates with me. Nothing's more important than your schooling." He stumbled over his words, flustered. "Oh, I was going to study, really, but Clara had a nightmare and wanted to pray for her family today. She's just a fragile girl, and I couldn't say no." Before I could answer, Clara stepped forward, swaying like a willow in the breeze, and dropped to a shaky curtsy, trembling so much it seemed like a breeze could knock her over. She hadn't even opened her mouth, and those big, pathetic tears were already welling up. "Sister, please don't blame my lord," she said in a broken, stammering voice. It was all me, begging him to come. Wonderful. I hadn't done anything, and I was already being cast as the witch. Rose Foster, my fiery maid, wasn't having it. She pointed straight at Clara and snapped. "And who do you think you are, daring to call the heir of Marquis Benson my lord, and the lady of the house, sister? You're nothing but a cheap piece crawling out of the Musicians' Guild. You aren't even good enough to be a concubine in a proper family." She spat to the side, full of contempt. "You came from a big family once," Rose sneered. "But now all you know is how to act coy. Forgot all the rules, huh? Pathetic." Before Ethan could explode, I gently grabbed Rose's sleeve and said calmly, "No more of that. Miss Clara is helping me take care of my husband." Then I turned to Ethan, sounding concerned. "You better check on Miss Clara. She looks about ready to faint." Sure enough, Ethan forgot about everything else, rushing back to steady Clara's swaying figure. Squeezing in a brusque word to me, he said, "Rose was out of line. You should really rein her in." It could have ended there, but true to character, Ethan couldn't help but dig deeper. "Dear," I said mildly, what Rose said was harsh, but not wrong. Right, Miss Clara? Right as I spoke, Clara put on a final act of frailty. Her eyes fluttered shut, and she collapsed like a snapped flower. Ethan grabbed the excuse like a lifeline. Without another word, he scooped Clara up in his arms and hurried down the mountain. I stood there, watching them disappear, smiling faintly. Honestly, I wished them all the happiness in the world. In this life, he could go after whatever he wanted. I wasn't going to stand in his way. I slipped a gold bracelet from my wrist and fastened it around Rose Foster's arm. She beamed at me, her smile so wide it nearly reached her ears. That's what I'd been meaning to say for a while. She deserved a reward. Last time around, I wasted way too much time on Ethan Benson. If I wanted to be a proper matron of a noble house, I had to actually take control. Inside, outside, top to bottom. It was a massive, messy job. I couldn't afford to let my mind wander. Because I didn't really have a grip on the household back then, when Ethan turned on me, I had no way to fight back. Now Ethan was completely lost in his little romance. Perfect. Gave me the chance to pull the strings and slowly get everything in the house under my hand. That day, I was in Mrs. Benson's room, going over what gifts to send for the Dragon Boat Festival. And then, out of the blue, Ethan showed up. He didn't just walk in, he stopped everyone dead in their tracks. Even a few maids couldn't hide the stars in their eyes. He was decked out in this sky-blue silk robe, walking in slow and easy. White jade hairpin, green jade belt, looking champ, like spring moonlight dancing through willow trees or that first blush of dawn. Miss Benson tapped her finger lightly on the table and gave me a knowing little wink. "Ethan's come to see you," she said. Before I could even stand, he had already stepped inside, gave his mother a proper greeting, and handed me a small parcel. "I remember you liked chestnut pastries," he said. "These are from Rui Xiangzai. I got you some." Funny. I had once gone out of my way to tell him that I was allergic to chestnuts. Bad enough to cause rashes, trouble breathing, even seizures if it got real bad. And here he was, handing me pastries that could kill me. Maybe he mixed up who liked what, or maybe he was doing it on purpose. Who knew? I didn't care anymore. I tucked away the smile in my eyes, lowered my head a little, and gave him a polite curtsy. "Thank you, husband." When I straightened up, though, my face was all smiles. I thought he'd just drop off the gift and leave, but he lingered. Mrs. Benson caught on quick. "That's enough for today," she said. "You two go on back." After we got back to my quarters, I said, "Why didn't you go see Clara Marks?" He looked a little guilty. "You're pregnant. It's not easy for you. Father told me to spend more time with you." I smiled faintly. "Honestly, there's not much I need. I've got maids and servants keeping an eye on me all the time. And anyway, if I'm feeling miserable, you must feel even worse, with me out of commission and all. You ought to go find Clara if you're feeling bored." He stared at me like he wanted to argue, muttering, "Lydia, why do you always push me away? You..." Not good. He was starting to think for himself. I cut him off with a quick laugh. "What are you talking about? Of course I want you around. I'm just worried you're bored. Look, I'm really happy today. You even brought me chestnut pastries." I didn't expect what he said next. "Actually, it was Clara who reminded me," he said. "She said you loved chestnut pastries." Clara Marks, again. For a second, something sharp flashed through my eyes. From then on, Ethan really did make an effort to spend more time with me. Didn't expect that witch to come find me herself. As my belly grew, the doctor and Mrs. Benson kept telling me to walk around more. So one day, I decided to head out, pick up some baby clothes, get a little fresh air. Soon as I set foot in the fabric shop, Clara followed me in. She had her people block off my maids in attendance, cornered me against the wall, her face twisted with anger. "You're just using that baby to keep Ethan from coming to me," she sneered. No surprise there. Having someone back her up made her bold enough to forget her place. I shot back. "Maybe get this straight first. I'm Ethan Benson's wife, lawful and proper, and you, who do you think you are, barking at me?" I didn't want to waste breath on her, especially while pregnant. I just tried to edge away and head back home. But Clara slammed her hand against my shoulder, forcing me back against the corner. Her face was cold and vicious. You only became Ethan's wife because you were born into a good family. So what? Clara sneered, her chin lifting defiantly. Ethan said he only ever loved me. Everyone else? Just obligations, that's all. She pointed over at the people she dragged along with her, clearly showing off. See them? Ethan arranged for them to keep me safe. He's just waiting for the right time, she said, her smile smug. Then he'll bring me into the Benson household and we'll be together forever. She looked me up and down, her gaze sliding to my obviously pregnant belly. And you? She laughed lightly, her voice dripping with scorn. You're just the wife in name only. Think you can trap him with a kid? How pathetic. Her gaze darkened as her eyes lingered on my stomach. Besides, she added, full of cruel satisfaction, who says the baby will even make it? I could tolerate a lot, but cursing my unborn child was where I drew the line. Before I could react, Clara yanked the fabric from my hands and jabbed a finger toward my belly, voice shrieking across the room. That thing in there, it's probably dead already. Ha! Furious beyond words, I slapped her hard. Clara collapsed dramatically onto the floor, curling into herself like she'd been struck by a sword. Before I could even make sense of it, Ethan's furious voice rang out. Next thing I knew, he stormed over and slapped me across the face. Caught off guard, I stumbled sideways into a pile of silks. It was the first time anyone had ever hit me. My cheeks stinged and burned, shame wrapped tight around me until I trembled uncontrollably. You crossed the line, Lydia Roe. Ethan snapped, eyes burning like I was some kind of villain. She's not feeling well today, but still forced herself out to buy you a gift because she heard you're about to give birth. And this is how you repay her. He turned away from me, hurrying to Clara's side like she was the one carrying his child. Gently, he helped her up, cradling her like she was made of glass. His fingertips brushed the mark I'd left on her cheek, his touch so tender it made my stomach churn. The two of them huddled together, the picture-perfect couple, him tall and handsome, her delicate and dazzling. You could almost call it a match made in heaven. Does it hurt? Ethan asked anxiously, voice low and coaxing. Clara didn't answer with words. Instead, fat tears welled up and spilled down her cheeks, like broken pearls. She looked utterly pitiful as she choked out, "It's my fault, Ethan. I shouldn't have fought over the same cloth with Lady Roe. I made her angry. And besides," her voice cracked, "someone like me, from the brothel, what right do I even have to celebrate her childbirth? Boo-hoo." Of course, that just fueled Ethan's anger even more. To make it up to her, he ordered the shopkeeper over and snatched up the entire bolt of cloth Clara had touched, buying it all on the spot. Then he turned on me, pointing a finger right at my face. "You act all kind and gentle in front of others, but behind closed doors, you're nothing but a jealous shrew. Listen closely. One day, Clara's stepping through the doors of my house, and if you dare lay a finger on her again, I'll divorce you without second thought." Hearing his threat, I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just the dull ache in my belly was sharper than whatever he could throw at me now. I waved over the maids and servants, still frozen in fear. My maids rushed to my side, helping me to my feet. Hand on my belly, I turned a cold smile toward Clara. "You're right about one thing, Clara Marks. You're just a lowly brothel girl. How dare you stand in front of me? I'll enjoy watching you try to crawl your way into the Benson household." Then I looked Ethan straight in the eye. "You'd better leash your pet. Next time she crosses me, I'll make her regret it, and trust me, not even the authorities will touch me for it." The timing was almost right. Clara wanted to get into the Benson household? Fine, I'd give her the push she needed. I couldn't wait to see when Ethan Benson lost everything. Would his precious Clara still swear undying love then? Back at the manor, I went into early labor. It was rough, terrifying even. But by some miracle, I pulled through, and so did the babies. Twin miracles, a boy and a girl, both healthy and beautiful. My in-laws were over the moon with joy. Lying there, Gazing at my babies sleeping soundly beside me, I couldn't help but smile and think, Ethan Benson, you're useless to me now. Go ahead, be with Clara Marks if that's what you want. Ethan started ignoring me. Apart from putting on a show in front of his parents, he never visited me or the child. Maybe he was still waiting for me to cave. Fine by me. Less mess for me to deal with. I'd rather spend my energy on the baby anyway. I finished my confinement peacefully, putting my heart into looking after the little one and managing the estate affairs. Mother-in-law even praised me for being quick on the uptake, saying it wouldn't be long before she could fully hand things over. Ethan, on the other hand, claimed he was buried in his studies and barely came home. Not long after, the triennial examination for selecting tribute students at the Imperial Academy came up. A big deal for students like Ethan. Passing it meant qualifying for the provincial exams and eventually becoming a presented scholar. Getting Ethan to switch from military to civil service was a huge part of Mr. Benson's family plan. But after the exam, word came that Ethan had skipped it. Mr. Benson was furious and demanded someone drag him home. As his wife, I couldn't just sit by, so I pretended to go look for him. On the way to the pleasure quarter, I ran into Ethan and Clara together. It had only been a few months, but it felt like a different lifetime. Ethan looked nothing like before, thinner, slouching where he used to stand tall and proud like a bamboo. Still, even dulled by drink and debauchery, he had that lingering charm that could still pass for a prince in rough times. When Clara saw me, she deliberately leaned into Ethan's arms, like staking her claim. I ignored her and asked Ethan, "Why didn't you sit for the examination? Father's furious." A flicker of guilt flashed on Ethan's face. He scratched the back of his head, about to say something, when Clara jumped in. "Please don't blame him, madam. Ethan stayed because of me. He couldn't bear to leave me alone." She even bowed her head slightly, voice quivering. "I'll take whatever punishment you wish, madam. Just please don't tell the Lord." Ethan couldn't stand to hear her blame herself. "Clara, don't say that. If you're hurt or bullied, who else are you supposed to lean on but me?" Then he turned to me, scowling. "Lydia Roe, mind your own business, and stop acting like you're the high, mighty lady of the house when you're around Clara." Once, Clara was sharp and brilliant. Now, she just seemed childish and shallow. If a woman wants a man to lean on, she should at least make sure he's capable first. Cutting off a man's future just to compete for affection, how foolish. Hope they wouldn't regret it. Ethan pulled Clara tighter and murmured to her, his voice full of affection. "Clara, you have to believe me. You're the only one in my heart. I'd give up everything for you. If anything ever happens to you, I can't go on living either." Moved to tears, Clara buried her face in his chest and choked out, "Ethan, meeting you is the only mercy heaven ever gave me. Without you, I'd be nothing but dust." I found the whole scene ridiculous. Without bothering further, I simply said to Ethan, "Figure out your excuse yourself. Go explain to father." Then I turned and left without a second glance. On the way back, I warned everyone, no word of this to Mr. or Mrs. Benson. Better to let things spiral completely out of hand. The bigger the mess, the better the blow when Mr. Benson stepped in. Later, to cover his tracks, Ethan even injured his right hand on purpose so he had an excuse for missing the exam. At that point, Mr. Benson had no choice but to let it go. Still, his whole plan had to be pushed back another 3 years. Every year wasted a blow to the family's future. Mr. Benson shot Ethan a fierce glare before storming off. Mother-in-law checked on Ethan's wound, sighing with regret. "You always had good grades. This year, you would have surely become a tribute student. 3 years more, you would have been a presented scholar. Such a shame." But Ethan looked completely unconcerned. "Big deal. I'll just test again in 3 years. I'll top the charts then. Might even snatch all 3 first places." Cheered up by her grandson, Mrs. Benson turned to me and said, "Lydia, take good care of Ethan. Help him get better soon so he won't fall behind in his studies." Before I could respond, Ethan spoke up. "No, I don't want her taking care of me." Then, as if realizing something, he quickly added, Mother, there are little ones in the house. It's too noisy for studying. I'm planning to move into the Imperial Academy lodgings so I can focus better. In 3 years, I'll make you proud." Mrs. Benson thought about it and agreed, only reminding him to bring enough servants. After checking in on her grandchildren one last time, she finally left. As her figure disappeared past the courtyard, Ethan sneered at me and said, "Don't get any ideas just because I'm hurt. I'm letting Clara take care of me, not you. You always look so prim and proper. It's boring. Clara's gentle and thoughtful. You're nothing like her. From now on, you better treat Clara with some respect. If I find out you mistreat her, you'll answer to me." After throwing that in my face, he ordered the servants to pack his things and left for the academy. Honestly, I didn't feel anything about his words. His leaving was perfect for me. Much easier to pull off what I had planned without him hanging around. Once Ethan moved out, he acted even more brazenly. He'd come home maybe once every 10 days, just to put on a show for his parents, give a quick glance at the kids, then rush out again, always blaming it on his busy studies. In truth, nearly every day he was at the pleasure quarter. One day, it was time for the routine inspection of the family businesses. Seeing me handle the affairs well enough, Mrs. Benson told me to lead the inspection on my own. When we got to Zhuanyan Lounge, the biggest, most profitable restaurant under our name, I spotted a troubling detail during the account review. There were a bunch of unpaid tabs all under Ethan's name, adding up to nearly 1,000 taels, about the amount the place made in a whole month. The manager explained that the pleasure quarter often placed delivery orders, and the young master told them to charge it to him. Apparently, Ethan had thrown a party today too, inviting a bunch of friends and girls from the quarter. I understood immediately and told the manager not to bother him. I planned to just skim through the rest of the inspection and leave, but when I passed the private rooms upstairs, I bumped into Clara Marks. Dressed head to toe in cherry pink, dripping with jewels, cheeks flushed, she looked vibrant, practically glowing, just like a newlywed showing off. When she saw me, she tilted her head and gave a dainty bow. "Madam, oh wait, I should probably start calling you sister now." She covered her mouth, pretending to slip up, then grinned. "Last night, Ethan and I finally shared a wedding bed. Today, he invited friends to celebrate. I didn't expect you to honor us with your presence, sister. Tee-hee." She then deliberately tilted her head back, showing off her swollen lips and faint bite marks on her neck. Disgusted by her bloated pride, I threw some cold water on her smug little parade. I said, as someone once said, "Charming tricks are all you've learned these past years. Good manners have long left your family along with its downfall. Even if he slept with you, even if you're carrying his child, so what? You're marked forever by your disgrace. Born a prostitute, live a prostitute. Even your child will be branded as lowly scum. Trash like you will never make it to the main stage." With that, I turned and walked off. Even from a distance, I could still hear the sound of Clara gasping angrily. Hopefully, that little poke would light the fire I needed. And it did. Not even 10 days later, Ethan showed up back at the mansion. This time, instead of that usual cold front, he acted all over the top sweet, bending over backward to please me. I could hardly stand the sight of him, so fake and greasy, and cut right to the chase. "What are you here for, husband?" He froze, looked awkward for a moment, then stammered, "Nothing. I just missed you a lot." I stared straight into his eyes. Watching him squirm, unable to meet my gaze, said it all. Seeming to make up his mind, Ethan Benson said softly, "Lydia, I want to buy Clara Marks' freedom. She's given her first time to me, so I owe her that much." He paused, then hastily added, "Don't worry, once she's in the house, she'll just be a concubine. She won't compete with you. But because she's a top courtesan from Jiaofengxi, the cost's gonna be high. I don't want father and mother to find out for now. I was thinking maybe we could use our private savings." His voice trailed off awkwardly. I stared him down for a while. I only chuckled when he started fidgeting like a kid caught stealing candy, then said, "Husband, no need to be so formal with me. Of course you can use our savings." But I quickly straightened my face. "You can buy her out, sure. But remember, even after she's freed, she'll still be a commoner. She absolutely can't be officially made a concubine." Ethan hadn't expected me to half agree. I was fine with buying her freedom, but refused to let Clara Marks properly enter our house. Still, he figured it out pretty fast. Get her out first, bring her into the household later, and what could I do by then? So he pressed. "Then give me the money now, I'll go settle it." Without another word, he grabbed the silver and rushed out like its feet were on fire. The thing is, buying someone out from Jiaofengxi ain't simple. Everyone there is related to felons, and you need approval from the Ministry of Rights before a person can be erased from the books. And Clara Marks, she wasn't just a felon's kid. Her family had been marked by the Emperor himself for treason. Ethan Benson was running around without a clue, bumping into walls everywhere he went. At this rate, not only wouldn't he save her, he'd probably draw even more unwanted attention. My elder brother, Lydia Roe, was a cleric at the Ministry of Rights. I needed to head home. A lot of upcoming steps couldn't be done without my family's help. I informed my mother-in-law, packed generous gifts, and made my way back to the Roe residence. After the usual greetings, I had all the servants dismissed, sat down with my parents and brother, and spilled everything. My situation, my plan, the whole messy truth. My mother teared up the moment she heard it. My poor girl, we thought that Ethan Benson was a good man. How wrong we were. I comforted her, then looked steadily at my father and brother. Gabriel frowned and said, "But you two were so loving when you just got married. How did it fall apart this fast?" I replied quietly, "People are like sand, brother. You think you can hold on, but it slips through your fingers all the same. I'll hang on to what I can and let go of the rest." I paused, then added firmly, "If Ethan Benson keeps this up, he'll drag the whole Benson household down. I have no choice but to cut him out completely. I won't let my children be born to carry a criminal's shame." After I finished, my father, Benjamin Roe, silent till now, suddenly slapped the table and barked a laugh. "Good! That's the daughter I raised. Decisive and smart, born to run a household." He nodded approvingly. "But have you thought about how Mr. Benson will react?" I said calmly, "Yes, Mr. Benson's a smart man. He knows how to weigh the pros and cons. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten this far with His Majesty. And besides," I added, "the family already has a grandson. Even if the heir falls, there's still a future." "Then do it your way," Father decided with a firm nod. After Gabriel secretly eased the paperwork, Ethan managed to buy Clara Marks's freedom smoothly. A few days later, Gabriel found out that Ethan was throwing money around like mad, pulling favors left and right, and had finally gotten Clara officially erased from the felon list. Even managed to give her a new identity as a scholar's daughter, fully respectable. Now Clara Marks had all the legal credentials to enter the Benson estate as a concubine. I was just waiting for her next move. But strangely enough, more than 2 months passed, and nothing happened. That afternoon, I was sorting through house accounts when a servant girl from mother-in-law's courtyard, led by one of my rough little maids, hurried into the room. The young lord brought a girl into the house, wanting to take her as a concubine. "Old madam asked you to come to the main courtyard." The little maid clearly explained everything. According to the rules, a man taking a concubine needed his wife's agreement. Now Ethan Benson wanted a concubine, but instead of talking to me, he went straight to his mother. Wasn't this basically slapping my face and complaining that I, Lydia Roe, was a jealous shrew? I set aside what I was doing and headed for the main courtyard. When I entered the warm chamber, I saw a girl kneeling on the floor. She wore plain clothes, no makeup, her figure slender and delicate. It was Clara Marks, whom I hadn't seen in days. Mrs. Benson sat on the couch, her expression serious. Ethan Benson stood to her left, staring at the kneeling Clara with obvious heartache. When he saw me come in, Mrs. Benson waved me over to sit beside her on the right. I bowed and stood on Ethan's left side instead. Before I could even stand properly, Ethan blurted out, "Mother, please let Clara stand. She's too fragile to kneel for long." Mrs. Benson shot him a look, cold and sharp. A concubine's duty is to serve. If she can't even endure some hardship, how will she serve? Ethan immediately shut his mouth, casting a resentful glance at me. Mrs. Benson then turned to me and asked, "Your husband says he wants to take this girl as a concubine, but you disagreed?" I lowered my head to glance at Clara, about to answer, but Ethan cut in ahead of me. "I did ask her before. She refused to let Clara into the house, but I really care about Clara, so I had no choice but to ask Mother for help." Then he turned to me and said coldly, "Lydia, when I asked for your private savings, didn't you say you wouldn't allow her in?" Look at him, twisting the story. Back then, he had asked about the lowly Clara Marks, not some so-called scholar's daughter Clara who knows what. Clara continued her act. Tears welled up even before she spoke, her voice fragile and broken between sobs. "I, Clara, fell for the young lord at first sight. He wished to make me his concubine, but the lady of the house disapproves, so I've been left outside the gates. My heart clings to Ethan alone. I'm willing to serve tea, work tirelessly for the lady, only beg for old madam's mercy. If not, I'll end my life to prove my loyalty." It was pitiful enough to move anyone to tears. Just then, Mr. Benson lifted the curtain and stepped in. After greetings and getting seated, Ethan repeated the whole story for his father's sake, then threw in one more line. "Also, Clara's carrying my child. If we don't bring her in soon, the heirs of our house will be born outside." At that, Mr. and Mrs. Benson lit up with joy and turned to look at me. Mr. Benson's tone grew harsh. "It's right and proper for a man to take a concubine. Why are you against it?" Good trick. Ethan knew Clara couldn't be brought in openly, so he tried to fool everyone like this. And he wanted me to carry the blame for being jealous and unvirtuous, so he could control me later. Following his father's lead, Ethan added, "Father, she's just jealous. She won't allow any woman near me." Who knew someone from a noble house like the Roes would raise such an unworthy daughter? Such a heavy accusation, even dragging my family name through the mud. But I wasn't shaken at all. I stared Ethan straight in the eyes and said, "My lord, don't you know exactly why I refused her entry?" I turned to Mr. Benson, bowed and said, "Please, father, investigate Clara Marks thoroughly and see if she's even fit to enter our household." At those words, Clara collapsed to the floor and Ethan's face turned deathly pale. Ethan Benson had been sheltered for too long, thinking he could trick everyone with little schemes. But to Mr. Benson, those tricks were child's play. Sure enough, when love fills a man's head, nothing else gets done. Soon, Mr. Benson sent word for me to meet him in his study. Mr. and Mrs. Benson sat up high, faces grim, sharp eyes pinned on the scene. Clara Marks was kneeling on the cold floor, and Ethan Benson knelt right by his father, speaking low and urgent. No one else was around. He threw me a quick glance before hurriedly saying, "Father, Clara's carrying a Benson child. Please, let her keep it. I'm begging you." Mr. Benson slammed a hand on the table. "Absurd. Do you even realize what kind of woman she is, and you dare associate with her?" Ethan's eyes turned red. "She's the eldest daughter of the Marks family. If not for what happened to them, she would have been my equal. She was born into a good home. Just because life turned on her, how's she suddenly not good enough? I'm the one who should feel guilty making her a concubine." Mr. Benson turned red with anger at his son's childish arguments, slamming his fist down harder. "Handle this yourself, or I will." Ethan froze. He had never seen his father this furious before. Suddenly, Clara inched closer, threw her arms around Ethan's waist, and cried, her voice choked, "My dearest, don't upset father because of me. I'm not worth it." She turned her tearful gaze to Mr. Benson, lips trembling. "My lord, this is all my fault. Please don't blame him. I'll leave. I won't cause more trouble." Tears rolled down, crystal clear against her perfect face, so heartbreakingly beautiful. Ethan, deeply moved, spun around and wrapped her in a hug. "Clara, don't worry. I'll stand by you, always." But Clara pulled away, scooted on her knees right to me, and clung to my legs. "Please, Lady Lydia, I beg you. Please help plead for Ethan. Don't let his father punish him." Caught off guard, I lost my balance and stumbled backward. Thankfully, Mrs. Benson caught me in time, steadying me before I could fall too hard. Benson shouted for help, and my maid rushed over to lift me up. In the flurry, several sturdy maids charged toward Clara, but Ethan flung himself between them, arms outstretched, shielding her. "Father, please, don't hurt her. It's not Clara's fault, it's me. I'm the one who loves her. She didn't do anything." Clara, crying harder, wrenched away from Ethan, scrambled to kneel before Mr. and Mrs. Benson, and pleaded, "Please, my lord, my lady, we love each other. I don't want anything else, just to be with him." Ethan followed her down to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. "Father, mother, ever since I was little, I looked up to you two, loving each other for life. I can only feel that kind of happiness with Clara. My heart belongs to her, and her alone." At that moment, it felt like everyone standing between them were heartless villains. Mr. Benson said sharply, "You're the heir of the Benson house. You've enjoyed the family's wealth all your life. You bear their responsibilities too." Ethan stiffened his neck stubbornly, pointing at me. "I've done my duty, married the woman you picked, given an heir. Why can't I be with the woman I love?" Seeing her son so distressed, Mrs. Benson stepped forward, her voice soft. "Son, she only clings to you because you're the heir. You have to see clearly." But Ethan shook his head fiercely. "No, Clara loves me for who I am, not my title, right?" He looked at Clara desperately. Clara immediately nodded, tearfully saying, "Of course, I want nothing but to be with Ethan." And somehow Ethan bought into that. He didn't get it, did he? The pretty ones always lied best. When Mr. Benson saw his son too stubborn for reason, he finally lost it. With a loud crack, he slapped Ethan hard across the face. "She's a traitor's daughter. If you marry her, bear her child, it'll enrage His Majesty and drag the entire Benson house down. Is that what you want?" Ethan's handsome face immediately swelled from the hit. Fueled by anger and despair, Ethan shouted back without thinking, "I don't care. I just want to be with her. She's her own person. Her family's their own problem. They've already been punished. There's no such thing as two penalties for one crime. His Majesty wouldn't bother with such a trivial matter. I just want to be with Clara. I don't care about anything else." Ethan Benson was really spoiled beyond saving. He had no clue how rough the real world was. Men like Mr. Benson, so close to the throne, lived in a constant dance with death. One wrong step and it was over. But all Ethan cared about was love and feelings. If he took over Benson House, it would only wither and fall. No doubt about it. From that day on, Ethan and Clara Marks were kept virtually under house arrest. Every day, Ethan poured his heart out through the walls to Clara next door. "Clara, are you all right? It's my parents. They only respect fancy clothes, not people. Just know this, in my heart, no one can even compare to you. You're the only one I love." My mother-in-law told me to go persuade Ethan again. He turned on me like I was his enemy. Staring at me with eyes full of hate, he snapped, "If it weren't for you, would we even be in this mess? What would it have cost you to just turn a blind eye and let Clara into the house? It's not like she would have fought you over anything. Lydia Roe, marrying you is the biggest regret of my life." Even now, he hadn't grasped how much Mr. Benson had done to save him. Still full of righteousness, blaming me for everything. Looking at his twisted face, I couldn't help but think back to when we were newly married. I had made a blunder with the festival gifts because I wasn't familiar with the rules yet. I was so guilty, I hid away crying. He sat by my side, comforting me for a long time. I sat at my dressing table, and he picked up a brow pencil, clumsily helping me draw my eyebrows. He asked me, "Lydia, what kind of life do you want here at Benson House?" With a shy glance up at him, I said, "I want to honor father and mother, bear you children, and help you achieve great things." His eyes shone so brightly, dazzling like the stars. "Then I'll work even harder to build a life worthy of you, titles and honors, everything." Such beautiful promises, and now that warm memory felt like it belonged to someone else's life. Far, far away. The image of a husband sweetly doing his wife's makeup would never happen between us again. Even if the whole world tries to stop me, I'll fight through it all, as long as I can be with Clara. I'll prove to everyone we can still be happy together no matter what. Bang! The heavy doors of the secluded courtyard slammed shut. Finally, silence. After the house arrest started, my family sent word to me. "Mr. Benson must act decisively, otherwise he'll only suffer for it later." Such a hero, and yet such a foolish son. Poor Lydia. She'll probably spend the rest of her life alone. I didn't feel bitter. If everything went smoothly, my future would be exactly how I wanted it. Mr. Benson was exhausted dealing with his only son, trying every possible way to get Ethan to give up bringing Clara into the family. There were persuasions, threats, even sweet promises. He even offered to set Clara up as a mistress outside the house. But Ethan just wouldn't budge. He insisted Clara must be an official concubine. And it wasn't entirely because Ethan was stubborn. Clara played her part perfectly. Ethan wasn't really the strong-willed type. Clara figured the house wouldn't dare disown their only heir. She was carrying a Benson child after all. They'd have to accept her eventually, she thought. She grossly underestimated Mr. Benson's determination to protect the family name, and forgot that Ethan already had a legitimate son. Seeing Ethan utterly unmovable, Mr. Benson finally took action. One bowl of medicine, and Clara lost the child she had barely carried for 3 months. I heard her crying in pain the whole day. Ethan next door was either begging or cursing for hours. Soon after, word spread all over town. Mr. Benson's heir had gotten seriously ill. Not long after that, during a night with just a faint moonlight and the noise of cicadas and frogs in the air, Ethan and Clara ran off together. I stood on the rooftop garden, the highest point in the whole estate, watching their shadows fade away into the darkness. The once privileged nobleman clutched the desperate hand of the courtesan, running headlong into what they thought was happiness. Moved heavens and earth, just like a tragic legend. Without the Benson manor, Ethan Benson was nobody. What could you possibly offer Clara Marks, a woman raised with silver spoons and burdened with family expectations? Sooner or later, she'd realize you couldn't even provide a decent life. When she found herself wading through hardship with you, would she still call it salvation? Dreams shatter fast when reality hits. Ethan Benson, since you chose your so-called happiness, then I'll take Benson Manor for myself, fair and square. Later, Mr. Benson reported to the Emperor that his son Ethan had died of illness and requested that his grandson, William Benson, be named heir. Not long after, Mr. Benson had a private audience with the Emperor. The details were kept under wraps, but word slipped from the palace. When they emerged, Mr. Benson's eyes were red-rimmed, and the Emperor personally patted his shoulder to comfort him. Nearly a month after Ethan and Clara's elopement, news came that the Marks family's men, exiled to Ningota, had been massacred by mountain bandits. Immediately afterward, the Emperor approved the petition. My son would officially inherit the Benson name. After Ethan's death, the one mourning most was Mrs. Benson. She often wandered to the old pine tree in my courtyard, lightly stroking its bark, eyes brimming with sorrow. That tree had been planted by Mr. Benson himself when Ethan was born, hoping he'd grow strong and steadfast. Every time, Mr. Benson would rebuke her, his voice steely. He only cared for that witch, cutting all ties to us. Has he ever remembered the love we gave? We'll act as if he was never born. Take care of yourself. Raise our grandson well. That's all that matters now. From that day forward, Ethan Benson became a forbidden name within our walls. Mrs. Benson's health deteriorated quickly from grief. A few months later, the entire Benson household's affairs were handed to me. 16. A year later, Ethan somehow got an old friend to set up a meeting with me. After seeking Mr. Benson's permission, I agreed and chose Xuan Yun Pavilion for the meeting. Seeing Ethan again was like splashing cold water over a dream. Gone was the polished young noble. Though still in fancy robes, they were clearly out of date. Time had left its marks on him. After he devoured the rich fare, stuff he once turned his nose up at, he finally opened his mouth. "Lydia Roe, why can't I get back into Benson Manor? Did you do something?" I curled my lips slightly. "You're a dead man now. Ethan Benson doesn't exist anymore." "Me? A mere woman? I couldn't possibly make you disappear. It was Mr. Benson who decided you should never show your face again." He stared at me, stunned. No way. That's impossible." He tried to dash out, but I stopped him cold with just one line. "If you cause trouble at the manor and let the world know you're alive, fake death turns into real death for you and Clara Marks. Go ahead. Try me." He froze, swiveling back around like he'd seen a ghost. I stepped closer, stopped just a foot away, fixing my eyes on him. "Even the Emperor thinks you're dead. You seriously think Mr. Benson would risk everything for you?" Ethan's face turned stark white. But I'm his only son. Without me, the Benson line is broken." I sneered, cutting him off. "It's been a year. You and Clara lived in your little dream world. You really didn't know? There's already a new heir." Only then did it seem to hit him. He had a son and a daughter. His expression shifted wildly before he slumped to the ground like a broken rag. Looking down at this mess of a man, I said coldly, "You've got two options. Make a scene and die, or take these 1,000 taels, leave the capital, and never come back." I tossed the silver notes onto him and walked away without looking back. Ethan Benson was pretty smart. He knew exactly which way to choose. Everything had settled down. The rest of us kept moving forward. Only Ethan Benson stayed stuck in that tiny world he shared with Clara Marks. He asked for it, and he got it. 17. The next time I saw Ethan Benson was 3 years later. I was out in the county near the capital inspecting some estates. As our carriage rolled down a crowded street, we ran into some commotion. "You can't treat me like this. We promised forever, remember?" A man in rough clothes clung hopelessly to a gaudily dressed woman. "You! Ha! You're nothing but a deadbeat. Must have been blind to have wasted my youth on you." The woman spat as she shoved him away, face full of disgust. "I gave up everything for you. The man tried to protest. A loud smack cut him off, stinging sharp in the air. Without missing a beat, the woman ordered some thuggish men nearby to beat him up. Standing off to the side, she kept scolding. "And you have the nerve to talk about promises? You delivered on any of them? Pah! Me, once the top courtesan of the guild, now reduced to selling myself in the countryside? Because of you? Every time I think about it, I want to strangle you myself. And now you're still haunting me? Beat him harder." A man curled up on the ground, using his arms to shield his head, silent under the rain of fists. The crowd had packed in thick, so much that our carriage couldn't move on. I signaled my attendant to step in and stop the fight. When that woman saw someone meddling, she snapped at my attendant. "Mind your own business! Get lost!" Then she turned back to egg on her lackeys. My attendant, not amused, fired back. After all, not many dared disrespect the Benson estate. "We are from the house of Benson. Keep laying hands on people and we'll haul you all to the magistrate." That shut her up fast. She paled, hurriedly waved her thugs to back off and scrambled away. The man left crumpled on the ground flinched, then curled up tighter, half groaning, half sobbing. Since we'd stepped in, I figured we should help him through. I had my attendant lift him up and bring him back to our lodgings. After treating his wounds a bit, I handed him 10 taels of silver and told him, "Love can't be forced. If someone wants out, let them go. Best find your own way from here." Saying that, I turned to leave. "Lydia," a weak voice called after me. I paused, surprised, and turned around, studying him carefully. He was tall but hunched over, wearing a rough blue tunic. His face was bruised and battered. He didn't look familiar at all, so I asked, "Do I know you?" The man looked embarrassed, stepped forward hesitantly, then awkwardly dropped his hand, murmuring, "It's me, Ethan Benson." A loud crash seemed to echo in my mind. The elegant, polished young man who had once been everyone's dream in the capital was now just a faint shadow in my memory. And yet, even that ghost of a memory didn't match the beaten, broken man standing before me. He had changed too much. The hunched back, the worn, weary face, the shrunken, timid vibe. Nothing like the blight and gentle man who once made every girl in town sigh. Ethan Benson gave a rough chuckle. "Lydia, you've only gotten better. I'm happy for you." His eyes drifted up, taking a quick look at me before he glanced at himself, forcing a laugh. "And look what I've become." I asked quietly, "That woman just now, was she Clara Marks?" "It was her," he answered. His eyes dimmed, and he let out a deep, tired sigh. He gave a bitter smile. "You were right. She really was after something all along. When I had nothing left, she walked away. Sold herself back into the trade, just for a few pieces of silver. Ha!" Hearing that brought back a flood of memories, those intense arguments we'd had about Clara Marks back then. I suddenly remembered his stubborn, passionate words from years ago. "I only love Clara and no one else. She doesn't want anything, just wants to be with me forever and ever." Ethan Benson's life had started with every advantage. Born into a powerful family, his father, Mr. Benson, was a trusted courtier of the emperor, and Ethan was the sole heir. Not to mention, he was handsome as a god, and no fool either. In another life, he had risen fast, becoming commander of the royal guard and a close confidant of the emperor, all within a few short years. Yet even with all that going for him, he still managed to lose it all, falling head over heels for a courtesan from the Bureau of Music. And from then on, his life spun straight downhill. Ethan bowed his head, quickly wiping tears away with his sleeve. How have I even survived these years? I can't return home. I can't even see my wife and son. How did I let a woman like that fool me? Gave up everything for her? Was I ever that stupid? God, I was stupid. He suddenly snapped his head up and grabbed my sleeve like a drowning man clinging to driftwood. Lydia, I regret it. I swear I regret not listening to you. I know you once cared for me." He choked, voice breaking. "Can't we go back to how things were? I swear I'll treat you right. Really, I will." Before he could finish, I jerked my sleeve out of his grip. Taking a step back, I pointed at him and sneered. "You? What use would you be to me now?" His face went blank, completely lost. I continued coldly. "You can neither write nor fight. Can't tell right from wrong. Other than that pretty face, you've got nothing." I gave him a long look up and down, like examining some worn-out object. "And now," I added, "even that face isn't much to look at." Ethan's eyes widened like I'd slapped him. I turned away, looking down at him like he was nothing. And me? I'm the mother of Mr. Benson's grandson, the future Lady Dowager of the Benson house. I'm a respected noble matron. Why would I drag you back into my life? So you can take more concubines? Have more bastards fighting my son for his birthright? I laughed mockingly. Maybe I did like you once. Maybe. But the moment your heart was full of Clara Marks, whatever affection I had blew away like dust. Ethan stood frozen like a man struck by lightning. After a while, he rasped out, "I had a dream, a long one. In it, you were gentle and capable. The house was harmonious. We had 2 fine sons, and everything went right." "I never ran away with Clara Marks," he mumbled on like he hadn't even heard me. "I worked hard, and within 10 years, I was head of the Royal Guard, trusted by His Majesty. We were." I gave him a blank, unimpressed look, making him stumble to a halt. I let out a cold laugh. "Oh, so tell me, even in your dream, why didn't you run off with Clara? And after becoming head of the guard, what did you do with that power?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Then, as if suddenly realizing something, he lifted a trembling finger at me. You, and then he just collapsed onto the ground, completely drained. I didn't bother to spare him another glance. Instead, I had one of my trusted men come in. They cut out Ethan's tongue and severed the tendons in his hands and feet. After a basic wrap-up, we tossed him into a burlap sack. Same treatment for Clara Marks. If they wanted to stick together through life and death, well, I'd grant them that wish. I had to keep them firmly under my control, make sure they'd never have the chance to ruin anything again. And I made one more decision. They would stay alive. Alive to watch me live brilliantly. Alive to taste their endless humiliation. Looking at Ethan lying there like a slaughtered pig, I couldn't help but sigh a little. A person must always know what they're doing, stay sharp about where they stand. Never confuse the privileges your family gives you with your own abilities. Otherwise, when the game is dealt, it ends in a dead hand. I stepped out of the room where Ethan was imprisoned. Standing alone in the courtyard, I looked into the distance. The mountains far away rolled on like dark ink paintings under the sky, layer upon layer, stretching right up into the heavens. In that moment, I could almost see a shadowy version of my past self standing there, nodding at me, smiling faintly, before slowly fading into the distant horizon.